Today on MuscleCar, Limelight goes on the attack when the guys take her out for a spin. Rick shows us the ups and downs of dent repair, and we take a trip to the Good Guys show, where Tommy winds up on memory lane.
We've had the chance to work on some pretty sweet cars on this show before.
And they've run the gamut from low-buck, do-it-yourself street cruisers
to asphalt thrashing, fire-breathing monsters that you could hardly keep the tires planted on. But Limelight here's a little different. What it lacks in over-the-top capabilities, it makes up for with purity, sophistication, and classic sensibility.
You know, Tom, I think this is about the most accurate restoration we've ever done on the show. I mean, we usually upgrade stuff like motors, transmissions, suspension, tires, all that, but I'll tell you what, dude, sometimes the old stuff, it's just cool.
Limelight's built with factory-style parts, but just because she's got old-school components, don't count her out when it comes to raw power.
One of the signature styling cues of a pony car is the long hood, short deck body style that they are often designed with. Now this results in a smaller car than most of the big models of the day, but it still has room for a big engine with big power.
This citrus green paint looks pretty nice out under the sun. It's got just enough metal flake for a nice subtle sheen. This shade's not only an accurate Chevrolet color of the day, but it's also a unique choice that gives this car a look all of its own.
Tommy's resto job on these wheels looks dead on. The polyglass rubber really completes that old school factory look we're going for. The trim options for the RSSS model bring a good deal of pizzazz to the table. With subtle complements of chrome and aggressive styling cues, you will not confuse this car for the base model.
And the L78 396 that we built for it cranks out plenty of power to push it right on down the road. It's chilling out in the ballpark of 375 horse. And for a car that's just a hair over 3,300 pounds, that ain't half bad.
No, dude, it's hard to beat a good old-fashioned big block and a 4-speed for just outright fun. I'm willing to bet there'd be a lot more of these dudes still around, but they've been street raced and beat up, and they're running a bridge of buttons.
Which means when you got something like this, man, it's a shame to keep it locked up for no one to see. These things were meant to be driven and enjoyed. Well, I guess this thing's living proof that they knew what they were doing back in the day.
Yeah, they did. She was pretty old and tired and wore out when we got her, but I think she's up for going out and scaring the heck out of some hybrids.
Man, scare them. Heck, let's make some examples out of them.
Works for me.
Did you ever accidentally smack your car with a hammer? Rick shows how not to fix it. Plus, a clean Plymouth with a dirty, dirty name.
Hey guys, now one of the things that separates a muscle car from, say, a rock crawler or a race car or a rat rod is the time and money spent on the paint. Now we get a lot of emails asking us about technique, materials, and how do you really apply a show-worthy paint job. So we're going to be feeding you guys a few bite-sized tidbits now and again to help you spread a little shine on your ride. So today we're going to talk about some of the most common mistakes that people make when painting a car. Because hey, it doesn't take much to turn a really promising paint job into a big old bucket of what the heck happened. And that's why this kind of work can make some guys a little bit nervous. Now odds are your wife doesn't like you messing around with her town and country. So do like we did. Run by OKQ and pick up one of their dent and scratched hoods. They're super cheap, and plus you don't have to worry about messing up the family truckster. That's a good sized dent. Now about 98% of the people that look at this dent think it's actually about that big. But I got news for you. Now, the other 2% of you guys out there already know the dent is actually about that size. And that is a big difference. Normally I'd metalwork this before adding the plastic filler, but to make a point, I'm not. I'm gonna underfill this dent to show you guys what it looks like when you don't put enough material in there to properly repair it. Now, just like normal, I'm sanding it flat to the touch with a block and some 80 grit. Now, it doesn't look bad, and actually, it doesn't feel that bad, but don't forget where the real edges of the dent are. Now, basically, all I've done is go from a dent to a ripple. So basically, what we started out with is a hood with a dent. And what we've done so far is come back and filled part of that dent, like that. Now, you could technically go over the top of this thing with a coat of primer, and through a couple coats of primer and blocking, you could get that surface flat. The problem with that is primer and just about everything else that you spray on a car shrinks as it dries. Don't ever forget that. So what's gonna happen? You got this much primer here, but this much primer over here. So it may be flat when you block that thing out, but as it dries, that primer is gonna start to follow that dent. And then about 6 months after you paint your car, everything's dried out, you stand back and look at it and go, man, I thought I blocked that thing out straighter than that. So now what I'm going to do is prep the surface so I can overfill the same dent. Now this is another very common mistake. A lot of guys will build Mount Vesuvius out of body filler and then try to level it back down. Not only does this make for a lot of extra work, it also usually turns out badly. Now at this point we do have the whole dent covered up. The edges are blended in pretty decent, but we're a little bit overfilled. So now we've got our hood with the dent, but now we got it overfilled. So it's actually coming up like that. Now they're blended out on the ends, so it almost feels like it's all where it's supposed to be. Now you can prime and block it and get it flat, but you're gonna have the same problem. Primer this thick over the top of your filler and this thick over everywhere else. So you'll end up with that primer drying and get another wave in your body work. Now another problem I've seen guys do with this, they'll come back and they'll add more filler and try to blend that in and fill it. Well, now you feel a dent over here. So you gotta add a little bit more filler. And you'll end up chasing this thing on both sides of this dent all the way out down the panel, and what you end up with is a quarter panel, fender, door, whatever, that looks pregnant all the way down the side of it. Don't do that. If you're new to this, then invest in a can of guide coat and a longboard, because those two tools will really help you avoid some of the mistakes I've shown you here today, which are common, but definitely not the only ones that I see guys make. So stay tuned, because we got a whole truckload of tips and tricks for you on paint and bodywork coming up later in the season.
Coming up, a lightning quick 4-speed duster. Plus, put on your drool catchers because we're headed to the Good Guys Show. Today's flashback, a 1970 Plymouth Duster 340.
Back in 1969, the Barracuda was headed to the larger E-body platform, leaving behind its roots in the Valiant A-body. This left Plymouth without a compact muscle car to compete against Chevy and Ford. With a tiny retooling budget, just 6 weeks, they designed a brand new Valiant 2, threw in a 340 wedge V8, and voila, the Duster 340 was born. It was unleashed in 1970 and quickly left the competition in the dust. The designers at Plymouth kept the frame and front end of the Valiant, but that was about it. They added a sleek fastback roof with large C-pillars and rounded out the rear with wider fenders. This gave the car a muscular Coke bottle shape that was hugely popular. If you ordered the 340 package, you got racing stripes, dual tailpipes, a Hurst shifter, rally gauges, and a full slate of wild colors to choose from. This one is called in violet. Oh yeah, and don't forget the obligatory cartoon character, a friendly little dust devil just to remind other cars what was passing them by. For owner Don Cartwright, this Duster is a dream come true.
When I was a kid, I had a next door neighbor that had a blue 340 4-speed Duster, and I just always wanted one.
He got his wish when he found this numbers matching beauty in 2005.
Me and my son did the total rest of the restoration ourselves. Built the engine, transmission, rear end, all the mechanicals. Basically every nut, bolt has been totally replaced or restored on the car.
Dusters came with several engine choices, including 2 slant 6s and a 318 V8. But the real powerhouse was the 340. It pumped out 275 horses at 5,000 RPM. Weighing in at just over 3,000 pounds meant this car got about 1 horsepower per 11 pounds. The Duster 340 could go from 0 to 60 in just 6.2 seconds and do the quarter mile in the mid-14s. The Duster was hugely successful because it packed in so much bang for the buck. At only $2,500, it was nearly $500 less than the similarly equipped Chevy Nova 350. Over 200,000 Dusters were sold in 1970, double the number of Valiants sold the previous year. Of those, nearly 25,000 were optioned with the 340 package. New packages were added with cutesy names like Feather Duster, Gold Duster, and Space Duster. And Don Cartwright, he still enjoys kicking up the dust in his pristine purple Plymouth.
Next, hey Tommy, you like that Impala, huh? Tommy? Tommy? You're watching MuscleCar. For a DVD copy of this episode, just go to PowerblockTV.com and order your copy for just $5.95 plus shipping and handling. Start your own MuscleCar collection, delivered right to your door from the Power Block.
Hey guys, normally we're all cooped up in the shop having to work on something, but today we get to go out, check out some cool rides, see if we can find something to get into.
So we're here at the Good Guys Nashville Nationals, and as long as we're out of the studios, we're gonna hang out, throw back a few cold drinks, check out some hot rides.
Here's a little tip for you. I like to head to the swap meet right out of the gate. The early bird gets the worm when it comes to these kind of things. If you wait even a couple hours, you could miss out on something and never see it again. There's nothing wrong with that one.
Ouch.
You can look for stuff for years, and man, just one day you'll just run up on it, you know, and there it is. I've seen some stuff I hadn't seen before. And as far as the cars, man, they're great.
Something like this, about how much time do you have in it?
About 4 days.
At a big show like this, you can find cool stuff you've never seen before, along with some familiar faces. Advanced Plating, the Ring Brothers, Greening Auto, Rad Rides. Hey, we even ran into Brian from Auto Body Color and Supply.
We get to meet not only our customers that we see on a daily basis, but the backyard guys that are doing themselves, that are really proud and show us some really amazing things they're doing at home.
I get to be face-to-face with a lot of the people that I get to talk on the phone with all the time, and the face-to-face time is really good. It's a lot more meaningful.
We figured it was time to go look at some cars. This seemed like a good place to start.
I'm Dennis DeCamp, and this is my 1970 Mustang with a 427 small block Roush. And believe me, it's quick. Street Rod of the year 07, Muscle Machine of the year 10. The only thing left original is the roof. Everything else has been replaced. I just drove the car out from LA to Nashville. It was just over 2,100 miles.
We love seeing people just getting out and driving these things.
Oh, it's rare for me to get out and go, but I love to go and just kick back and talk to everybody about cars, you know.
The motors, wheels, just kind of neat to see it a little bit. Doesn't matter if it's fast or slow, just taste.
Man, this thing's got me thinking. This was exactly like my first car, dude. I still got it. Makes me want to go home.
Still got it?
I still have it, dude.
That's nice.
No, makes me want to go home and work on it though. Need to dig it back out of the weeds and get on it.
My name is Billy Seals. That's my '63 Impala. Well, I bought this car here in 1966 when I was 18 years old. For many years, it was my main car, but it sat about 15 years before I actually done
anything major to it. I started in the mid-90s putting it back together like it should be.
Same thing what you got, except mine wasn't a 409. It was my very first car.
Is that right?
Yeah, me and my dad put it together. We bought it for about 200 bucks, drug it home, put it back together, and that was all the way through high school. Mine has black interior in it, of course, but about the same color.
09 stuff.
Well, it looks like Tommy's gone all starry-eyed over this one.
It's got me wanting to go home and start working on mine.
Is that right? Have you got
Yeah.
one?
Yeah, I still have mine. It's nowhere near this nice.
Like no power steering, no power brakes, just a 409 4-speed.
Just the go fast goodies, pretty much.
It's got a 411 posi in it. And
Wow, that thing ought to get up and move pretty easily then.
yeah, it does very well.
You got any future plans for it?
Nah, I plan on keeping it as long as I can.
As long as you can.
Yeah.
I get guys coming up to me that I went to high school with. It's usually the first or second question they ask how I've been. You still got your old car, Tom? Maybe that's the best part of these kind of events. Seeing a car like this can inspire you to get into your own garage and start building. You know, man, a bad day here at the show is still far better than a good day at the shop.
You ain't joking, brother. It looks to me like people are loading up and heading out, so I guess we should probably do the same.
Sounds good. Let's go find that cold drink you was talking about.
Ooh, works for me.